Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Good Shabbos, Chanukah Sameach. So, quick pop quiz. If you were going to give Judaism an emoji, would it be the Magen David, or would it be the Menorah or Chanukah? So, you can vote for one or the other, you can't vote for both. Okay, all of those, if you were giving Judaism your emoji, Magen David, raise hands. Thank you. And Menorah / Chanukah, raise hands. Beautiful. Okay. So I'm going to try and persuade all of the Magen David voters that it's time for a change. I would say your vote does reflect the current state of affairs, but I want us to think about why. So the Magen David, the shield protector of David, is an emblem that is symbolic of the army of Israel protecting Israel. King David, who was the king who united the kingdom by a series of wars, was able to bring together all of the disparate tribes of Israel to be one together. The menorah goes back to the temple. It is our oldest symbol that we have. The Magen David is sadly not from the time of King David, but from much later on, even though it's named for him. But the menorah is the oldest, probably the oldest Jewish symbol that we know that exists today, and goes back to the time of the temple. It was lit daily in the temple, and of course that's the basis for the Chanukah story. The temple was dedicated to Zeus, and it was only after the war fought between the Seleucid army, the Greeks, and the Maccabees, that the temple was cleared out, and the oil was found that was enough to last for 8 days to light the menorah. So standing in front of you is this Chanukah, which is in memory of that menorah. It is not a menorah, it's a Chanukah, but it's in memory of that menorah that was able to be lit. And the difference, of course, is 7 versus 9. So that's a Chanukah. But I'm getting off the point. What's standing in front of you is a very powerful symbol of many things that we need to think about today. The obvious one is light. So Chanukah takes place in December, in the middle of the darkest, most wintry time in Israel, where the moon is getting smaller. So it's the 25th of Kislev, tonight the 26th of Kislev, and by the time you get to the middle of Chanukah, the moon is gone. It is dark, it is cold, and all you really want is some light and latkes and donuts, greasy comfort food. Doesn't quite work in Cape Town for obvious reasons, but the metaphor for the globe right now is clear. We need light in the darkness. So there's something else that we probably bumped off our headlines because we're watching so much what's going on in Israel and Palestine and Gaza. We're not watching, or maybe some of us are watching COP28 take place, the annual meeting to determine the way that the world will respond to climate change. And these discussions, which take place every year, are normally headline news. At the moment, they are competing for headline news. But if you look at the menorah reminds us of the tree. The Chanukah, which looks like a menorah, reminds us of that tree too. And if anything, we should be thinking of the Kabbalistic notion that we are a tree. We are like trees, and we are trees. We are connected to nature because God is one. We are a tree that has roots, a stem and branches, and our roots that grow down also grow up into the worlds above us. So when we see the Chanukah being lit while COP28 is taking place, we need to think about the trees not only in a ecological sense, but also in a Kabbalistic and ecological sense. How are we connected to the unification of this world? And if we are actively polluting and destroying this world, what are we doing to ourselves? How are we harming our own selves? So the Chanukah versus the Magen David also represent a struggle that took place 2,000 years ago. The Chanukah story is 600 years older than that. But 2,000 years ago, there was a debate between the rabbis about what the essence of Chanukah is. Is the essence of Chanukah that a tiny group of under-equipped and under-weaponed soldiers were able to beat the empire of the day, the Seleucid Empire, which in itself was miraculous, and drive them out of the land of Israel long enough to rededicate the temple and have relative peace and independence for a few decades? Or was the miracle the oil that was only enough for one day and miraculously was able to last for 8? Well, the rabbis recognized that we needed to acknowledge both stories, but they emphasized the miracle of the oil. Not because war is not a part of life, and not because Judaism is a pacifist religion, but to remind us that ultimately our strength does not come from our weapons. Our strength does not come from our soldiers. Our strength comes from our faith in God. And if we don't have that, what good are weapons or soldiers? So the rabbis were very clear about what the priority of the Chanukah message was, and they emphasized the miracle of the oil. And I think that's very telling in the world that we're living in today and what's going on right now. What is the right response to the world that we live in? Is it the Magen David? Is it to arm even stronger armies in Ukraine or Israel? Is it to give people stronger weapons so they can defeat the darkness and the evil? I understand war is a reality, but is that the first priority? Or is the first priority to look at the miracle of oil and to say, when the war is over, and then what? What are we really doing all of this for? Surely it's ultimately about emunah. It's about faith. It's about hope. It's about wanting to build a better world. Rabbi Malcolm sent me a video, maybe you got it as well, of a Chanukah that had been made out of rockets that had been fired into Israel. Did you get that one?